They were not spies, they were explorers. The spies were the one Yehoshua ben Nun sent to Jericho. Okay, but this one, they were exploring the land and to see what they have. Okay, now they then brought the bad news. Okay, and what happened? If you look at the numbers, there were like about more than 3 million people. So that means that 10 persons changed the mind of 3 million people. You see how that is? The difference is big. So we have to be aware of what we say, because what we say, it will influence others. Our words can be built courage, inspire, and also hurt, discourage, and also. So that's why we need to be careful on our words. We got, and when we got Torah, we also got the responsibility, because we have to be responsible of every word that we said. We're going to be accountable for each word that we said. If it is good or if it is bad. So well, we have to ask ourselves: is what I'm going to say is true? If it is not true, then it's lashon hara, and lashon hara it's not something that we should be practicing. Okay. Now, in order to understand other persons, we have to also be good listeners. So we have to have active listening, okay, to understand what the other person has said. Sometimes somebody talk to us, and we're not even thinking what they are really saying. And what we do is we're already in our mind thinking about what we're gonna answer. We are defending ourselves before we can hear the whole story. So that's something that we have to practice: active listening. And last one, we have to have empathy. Okay, yes, we have to put ourselves in the shoes of the other person. Okay, and on that I have a disagreement. You have to put yourself in the other person up to a point, because you cannot say, yeah, everything that they did, it's okay. No, we have to know that at that point they also have a responsibility. They thought about it, so you can have your empathy to a certain point. That's my the way I think, you know. And also, what we can do is we have to cultivate our language. It has to be a language of love, of understanding, and making sure that every word that we said we're going to be accountable for. Okay, if we lie, we're going to be accountable for that. So that's why we cannot be lying. We cannot be not saying the whole truth. We just got to be careful of what we said. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. So there's all sorts of interesting insights this week in the Torah portion. Let me go look to see if there is any new mitzvot according to Rambam. So we have the first. It's amazing. We get to Devarim and we're like, oh my, the year went past and flew by us. So according to Rambam, there's 2 mitzvot this week. Not this. You probably hear the dogs back in the background. 541 is not to appoint judges who are not familiar with judicial procedure. And 564 is the judge must not fear a violent man in judgment. So this is both taken from Deuteronomy 1:17. Okay, so what's interesting this week is I try to look at stuff that's kind of similar in the culture or something that we can put it toward this week. And what's very interesting, and our sages kind of talk about this a little bit, is in our detractors, our enemies, the enemies of the Torah, try to let us, they point this out. Okay, so when the original, now, first of all, what this is, this whole portion of Deuteronomy, Devarim, is a retelling. Okay, it's very, very, very important that we learn as a people our history. Okay, it's actually important to the country we live in. I know that the vast majority of us are Americans. We have some Canadians, I believe, that are listening in. And we're, as Jews, we're supposed to be good citizens of the country we're in. Okay. It'll be before long before they get tired of us and we have to move somewhere else. But for the time being, we try to be good citizens. Okay. So, so our history is important. Okay. So what's interesting is two things. Is the first accounting in the book of Numbers of the spies, Hashem tells Moshe, you need to go and send spies to look out the land. He gave them the parameters to go to look out the land. And in the retelling, now remember, this is Moshe telling basically the people that are about to go in. These are the children. These are the 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds that lived in the that are now 40 years old, or let's see, 19, they'll be almost probably 60. It's 40 years, right? So the elders would be no older than 40 years old, right? So the oldest person in the camp would be 59, besides Yehoshua and Caleb. You know, they must have been ancient to them, probably 90 or so. But anyways, the two things is Hashem or Moshe says, look, it was me that made the decision to send the spies. So the first account, it says Hashem said this, which is it? This is a thing that comes up within Judaism, and especially if you read the Talmud, this comes up. You may get a story where there's something that the sages are discussing, and they give three different answers, and they say, well, which one is correct? And they're like, all of them, right? So it's both of them, right? Hashem told Moshe to send the spies, and then Moshe chose the spies to send, right? So that goes into what's important this week, right? We're inundated. We'll be inundated until November about who to vote for, right? I'm a federal employee. I can't tell you who to vote for, but you know, it's amazing during this time period. You know, you see how important music is in my life. When I'm out on the road, I constantly listen to music. You know, I listen a lot of time for the music of my youth, or I'll listen to, you know, folk music, or I'll listen to, you know, Jewish music. But this week, you know, I chose not to listen to music for a tradition that we have during the 9 days and the 3 weeks as well. And as we're in mourning for our temples and all the negative things that have happened in our history. And so, and one of the traditions is you don't listen to music. And so instead of music, I've been listening to talk radio, right? So I'll listen to NPR, and then I'll listen to, I know, right, NPR, but I want to know what's going on in the rest of the world. You don't get that a lot of times anywhere else besides NPR, you know. It's National Public Radio, okay? So it's relatively left-leaning, right? You're going to get a lot of stuff about Democrats. And then I listen to, you know, kind of the conservative radio. And this is kind of toward the Republicans, right? And there was one overarching theme on both sides. It was anger and fear and hate and it was hate this person because they're over here, and you know, the other side, you know, the right side or the conservative side would say we got to hate, you know, this candidate. We've got to hate. Well, it's not hate, but you know, you've got to fear them and the thing they're doing. Okay, it is very important that we choose good leaders because we're going to be judged for it. Okay, but we as Jews have to have the Torah as our guide. We can't let a party, you know, be our guide. I'm going to read something from the I'm going to read something that was written by our sages thousands of years ago in the Pirkei Avot. Okay, and this is in chapter 2 in Torah 3. Okay, so section 3. It could be later on. It became verse 3. Okay, and it says, "Beware of people in charge of the government." These are people that are at the very top. This is not your regular civil servant, you know, carrying out the government. Okay, they will become your friend for their own reasons. When it is time, when it is to their benefit, they'll act like your friend. But you cannot trust them to be loyal when you need their help. Okay, this is we should remember this for any side. Okay, and govern ourselves by the Torah. And the Torah is our law, not the Constitution, not the Constitution of Canada, not the Constitution of the United States, not the Constitution of Cuba. Our law is first the Torah, and our law after that is the law of the land. Okay, we're supposed to follow the laws up to the point where, you know, it violates the Torah. Then we can stand out. Okay. There's another thing that I wanted to mention about today's Torah portion is Moshe, by and large, is talking to the children of the people who sinned and caused their children not to go into land. Taken at what was acceptable at the time period, we're probably talking about 3 different generations. So 12-year-olds. So they started a family between 12, 13, 14, 15. So we're talking about 12, 24, 36. That's 3 generations, right? Hashem says that the mistakes we make will last for 4 generations, right? He doesn't say that he'll curse us. He said that he will be able to visit us, and the same issues that a great-great-grandfather had, that their children will have. But you know, there's a deep Kabbalistic attempts to try to explain this, but I don't want to get into that deep. You know, we want to go down into the rabbit hole, as we're saying. But what's interesting is Moshe, in recalling, now he shifts eventually, speaking directly as instructional, right? Later on, he eventually starts saying, we need to do this, we need to do that. But the first part of the Torah portion, he says, when you chose the leaders, when you chose the 12 spies, you made the decision. Nobody there made the decision. And it's almost like colloquially, I have to remind myself, and I say this quite a bit in my drashas, is he's speaking to us. We're the ones that chose the bad leaders. We're still choosing bad leaders, right? I wish that we had a system where we could pick politicians based on certain things. You know, I'm going to pick this, I'm going to pick that, and I pick over here. But it almost seems to be in our system to be counterintuitive to us as Jews. Be like, well, you know, you've got to be this over here for conservative values on social issues, but over here, you know, you gotta make it to. Anyways, the point is there's really not a perfect situation, okay? But we're not tired. We're not told to go with this situation that's perfect, okay? Last night, my wonderful daughter was talking about Hashem created us each with issues. This is a blessed out of the mouth of babes. She's not a baby, but she young and she's developing stuff as far as thoughts and logic, and it's amazing sometimes what our children will teach us about learning things. But so why did Moshe speak to people who didn't do the act? Because we're all the things that our parents do and our grandparents do affect us, right? And this has been proven by science. Okay, they did an experiment on grandchildren of people who were in the Holocaust, and they found that a huge amount of people had fears of water or dogs or the dark, and they would interview their grandparents of these people that were in the Holocaust, the grandparents in the Holocaust, and then their grandchildren later. But these grandchildren would have these nightmares or have fears of swimming or sharks or electricity, whatever, and then they would ask the grandparents, and they would have some type of trauma associated with it. So we're kind of locked in with the things that we have. I think one of the things we can take from this is we can. Rebbe Nachman says, if you break it, you can fix it. Right? It's a colloquial. I'm paraphrasing. Okay, but the idea is that we can stop we can break the chain in our lives, and that will go on to generations, right? So the same people that were being admonished for the sin that we did in believing the spies was the same generation that actually went in and started. It was a completely different situation. In the Midrash, now, this is a Midrash that to me is kind of out there, but if you want to see some interesting stuff, you can read the Midrash about Og, and it says that Moshe actually had to jump up in the air, and he was only able to get the heel of Og, right? So apparently Og was, 72 feet tall or whatever. That to me is a little bit too much, but figuratively we can say that he was a huge man. We see this in the description of Og's bed. But the fact is that Og was destroyed, and 3 generations previously, we saw all these tall people, and we refused to go in because we were afraid. And thankfully, we were able to teach our children, and they were able to get supernatural bravery, and that's what we hope. We hope that our children can learn from our mistakes, that we can kind of atone in a way for the sins of our, or at least the patterns of our parents, grandparents, and great grandparents. So it's all a process. There's Hashem has created us each with issues that we are basically dealt with, that he has expected us to live through and to overcome. So let us all do our little bit of repair in our world. There's this idea within Judaism, tikkun olam, that you fix your little corner of the world. Last night, I was just feeling down because I sometimes I want to, I idolize Yiddishkeit, our brothers and sisters, Ashkenazi, and for whatever reason, I was cut off from that, right? So a lot of times I'm like, okay, I'm not there, but it's almost like Hashem is saying, listen, I didn't create you to be there. I created you to be here, right? For people that are here, and that's where we deal with, right? We deal with the situation we're in. Rabbi Nachman says, whatever position we're in, whether you're a police officer or an accountant or somebody working at a grocery store, or a Torah scholar, we're all, if we do it all for Hashem, he's going to take it. He's going to receive it, right? So let us all repair our little slice of the world, and maybe all together doing that, we can bring Mashiach. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I like the pictures that he had on the staircase. I was just looking at that. It was a pretty inventive idea. He was mentioning NPR. There was a show on NPR at one point. I don't know if it still is, but I remember as a kid, I would always listen to it, called The Prairie Home Companion. And it had that funny intro to it. So hilarious, sort of satirical, but calm and, not too excessive. Always had this statement that said, where all the women are strong and all the men are good looking and all the children are above average. Anyways, I'd like to acknowledge Moreh Ezra. His midrash is definitely something that I needed to hear today. I'm a public adjuster, so I fight the insurance companies. A lot of times I'm talking to these other adjusters and completely not considering anything they're saying. I'm just preparing my next argument that I'm going to have to break down their argument without even thinking about them. And sometimes we realize it's still a human being on the other side of the phone, and I was grateful for that. And I'm grateful for Benei Avraham in general. It has been a wonderful, wonderful journey that we have taken with Benei Avraham, and has completely touched our lives. Okay. This week's Parsha is Devarim, which means word. In this portion, I always felt like it was like the end of a chapter of this great long journey that they were having, and as I understood it. And they got right up close to the land which we were going to inherit. And then Hashem has kind of a rough discussion, bit of a harsh discussion with them. And then they went to circle a mountain. To circle a mountain? Really? We went all that way, this way, Hashem, and you want us to circle a mountain? There are many times in our lives we think Hashem has us participating in an exercise of futility, especially, when we're children and teens, We're like thinking, put me in, coach, I'm ready to play. I want to go out and conquer the world, learn everything, I want to get married, have a family. And instead, we have to circle the mountain. In the Brit Hadashah, it says, when I was a child, I spake as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away the childish things. Some of you are just kind of coming into adulthood. You're still in your 19s or 20s, so adulthood is still very new to you. And some of us are still circling the mountain, waiting for that moment when Hashem calls us to Zion, to our land, to our purpose and our place, the reason why we exist. We are convinced in the Devar Elohim that the very Son of Hashem dwelt among us. We beheld his glory. We heard his words as sheep. We followed this shepherd. Even in this day, the words of Mashiach has brought us back spiritually to the land of Israel, taking on the mantle of Jews out of love for Mashiach, for our God also, and for the people. We cast off the old Goyisher garment, and we became kashered unto a righteous seed. But some of us are still circling that mountain. Some of us, our heart has not fully returned to the land. We have made our commitments of Jews sincerely, but our commitment to Hashem is waning. Our commitment to Hashem is still an argument in our neshama. Brothers and sisters of Israel, Shema, hear this. If my people which are called by my name shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Are you abiding in Yeshua today? Is Yeshua your king? Have you acknowledged that Yeshua is the true king of Israel? Are you living your life as our great rabbi did? Yeshua said, verily, verily, I say unto thee, except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of Hashem. Another place, Yeshua answered, verily, verily, I say unto you, except a man be born of water and of spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of Hashem. That which is born of flesh is flesh. That which is born of spirit is spirit. Marvel not that I said unto you, you must be born again. Hashem sent his son unto us, and many of us were a stiff-necked people, and even some of us hated him. He laid down his life for us, not for some kind of creepy pagan sacrifice, but that we might remember how much Hashem has loved us, Israel. So the Father glorified the Son, in that while we're yet sinners, having the law, even disobedient to that law, we might still enter into the Shabbos rest. He was not a Messiah who taught us yet another magical trick, but showed us if we love Hashem and we obey his mitzvot, which is our pathway to Hashem, and as many as have learned in spirit and in truth of Mar Yeshua HaMashiach, we are called according to the law to follow him in obedience to Hashem. May it be Hashem's will that we will follow Mar Yeshua and surrender to Hashem as he also surrendered. For Yeshua is the true king of Israel and the Kohen Hagadol. So I ask, are you still circling the mountain? You know, in the Brech Hadashah it says that if thou shalt confess with thy mouth, Yeshua HaAdon, and shalt believe in thine heart that Hashem has raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. Food for thought. Enjoy your week. Shavua Tov. Remember, we have Tish B'Av in a few days. Remember our Beis HaMikdash. May it be restored speedily in our days. And remember our Rebbetzin, Refuah Shalema to her. And may Hashem strengthen our blessed and honorable Rabbi, Rav Reuben Vega, and all those who serve as Rabbanim of Benei Avraham. May they also be blessed.